All right, calm your titties, man. It's good. Okay, it's not as bad. It's pretty good right now. Okay, now this is going to be a patch 8.3 review. Well, kind of a review. It's still a little bit early on, but we have played since the launch of 8.3 up until now, chewing through most of the content. So you can expect we go through everything, like, you know, the daily quests on and the things you have to do within the new patch, the Mythic Plus season,
the raid, the corruption affixes, and everything like that is going to be, from our personal perspective, is going to be freestyle, and I know you're gonna love it. So
yeah, fuck the scripts. No scripts. Okay, this is how it is.
Let's kick it.
You better love it. The main thing about 8.3 is that after 8.2 and after the whole vibe of BFA, I think most of the active community was expecting a bit more. I mean, I would just say that the expectations were raised because 8.2 was such an improvement in comparison to what happened previously, and this is why maybe the 8.3 reception initially was not that good. And it was, in all fairness, it was fucked up because all of the bugs, all of the chores you had to do with little rewards. Granted, now they fixed that, so we're not going to focus a lot on the negative sides, although I'm still pretty salty that the catch-up mechanics are still not viable, if you were to ask me. On the other hand, it's once again a superficial way for them to keep players engaged or doing stuff on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, up until Shadowlands releases. And just think about it, it's going to be at least 7 months up until that expansion releases, and fingers fucking crossed that it doesn't get the same treatment as BFA. Now, in the current day, I can honestly say I enjoy patch 8.3 because, of course, there's all the daily chores, and I am calling them chores because they're not that fun and rewarding to do anymore. They did bump up the rewards for the dailies. They did bump up the rewards for the assaults. That's all great. They should have been doing that from the launch of the patch. But nevertheless, right now, if you look at it from let's say a complete overview, it looks like a complete patch. It's not as ideal as you would have 7.3 or, I don't know, 5.3. Granted, these patches had a lot more going to them because of the endings and the cinematics or whatever. Sure, I will agree, the Ny'alotha ending is disappointing. The old god, the last remaining old god that was portrayed and has been built up and was like the core secret motive, secret plotline of Battle for Azeroth, the treatment for that was like super weak. I said it in the previous on cooldown episode as well, but in all honesty, you should be looking at what are you doing in the game currently as we speak. So patch 8.3 right now has everything in place for you to be busy with. You have the dailies, you have the assaults in both of the zones, you have the new season for PvP and Mythic Plus, and granted, I really love the new season affix with the Awakening. Makes it really fun to go in different routes and skip a lot of the stuff that you would normally not skip in Mythic Plus. And we cannot not talk about the raid. Now, there's been a lot of discussions and opinions on the Ny'alotha raid, and I'm not going to talk about the ending. It's just the core and the gameplay and the vibe of the raid. It's good, man. It's really good. I think it's probably one of their best, especially when looking at the aesthetics, the music, the atmosphere. It's brilliant. Some of the bosses are not quite as fun as the others, but hey, it's a 12 boss raid. You cannot have all the bosses be exceptional, okay? In the grand scheme of things, if you look at it as a whole, the raid is super nice. Now, a lot of people had issues with Carapace, and not Carapace as much, but the fight with Ny'alotha, basically, because it's sort of repetitive, and it is true, but that doesn't mean it's not difficult. And trust me, we had a really hard time trying to beat Ny'alotha on normal mode. Lord knows how the fuck we're gonna get through that shit on heroic, probably with some more gear. But if I'm going to look like at the raid as a whole, I think that that's a huge quality ass piece of content. On top of the horrific visions. Now I'm doing horrific visions with Flame on every week reset, and you know, it's super fun to like try to find out what are the best routes. We're not looking at, guys, but we did a little bit at the last one because we wanted to make the 5 objectives complete and shit. So we did look at a guide eventually, but it's nice that it's gradually getting more difficult, and after you also unlock the masks, you can upgrade the difficulty as well. And it's also super nice that they award gear pieces depending on that difficulty. So it's a nice touch if you're, I don't know, bored of doing dungeons or arenas or raids or whatever. That's a nice touch also. A lot of people complain about the fact that there are no new zones like we were used to, and I think it's a double-edged sword here. I would have loved Ny'alotha to be a zone filled with content for you to do. We have the raid, that's great, but think about how cool it would have been for us to actually do stuff within Ny'alotha, do the dailies, do some questing over there, maybe get some more in-depth story, some more backstory as well. It would have been amazing, right? But on the other hand, I'm actually loving the fact that they are throwing in Uldum and Veil of Eternal Blossoms just to go back in there and do content within there, because I have to say, man, I don't know if this was catered on some sort of feedback or player response or whatever, but for me personally, Uldum was one of the best zones in Cataclysm. I loved it. I mean, I'm a huge Egyptian geek, and that zone portrays so good, so many Egyptian and pyramid motives. It's brilliant. And I loved fucking Mist of Pandaria. It's one of my favorite expansions. So for me, going back to those zones felt amazing. Plus, there's shit to do over there. There's, you know, little quest lines you have to follow. It's still good. Overall, right now, you'd be probably right to think that the patch is complete. Whether it will be enough up until Shadowlands, it remains to be seen. I honestly don't think so. People will get bored and clear everything within a couple of months at the max. Which begs the question, will there be any more updates? I know we will not have any 8.3, but I'm sure that tweaks and stuff will happen shortly. Or maybe they'll surprise us and say, hey guys, we're gonna have an 8.35 after all. Check this shit out. Who knows? Maybe I'm too optimistic. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it is a good patch. And if we're going to call this a sort of review for the patch 8.3, yes, it was terrible at the start. It has its letdowns with the end cinematic, but overall it feels good. It feels nice. You have shit to do. You can progress. There's no more Titan forging. And surprisingly, I didn't believe I would say this, actually love the corruption system. I finally got a piece and I'm loving it. But what do you think? You should let me know in the comments, man.
And in today's comment of the day, we have Top Down Guy, and he said, are you guys pitching your voices down or something? Jesus.
Hey man,
Hey.
think there's something wrong with my voice?
No, man. Your voice sounds good. What about mine?
I think your voice is good, man.
Awesome. Should we go sing a song?
Let's sing 7 Rings by Ariana Grande.
All right.
You want it? You want it?
You got it.
You want it?
Patch 8.3 review, the sequel. Not actually the sequel, but this is my personal opinion, and I pretty much agree with everything that Marcelian said, although I do view the game from a different perspective. I had hopes for patch 8.3 that it would, you know, bring the freshest and the best light on the game, and of course the initial reception and launch of the patch didn't actually help, and I cannot say that I'm 100% surprised that we had all those bugs. I was surprised at the amount of bugs, but then again, they were probably most of them fixed in about 3 to 4 days, I think, with the rest being fixed over the course of the last week or two. So it's not that big of an issue. It sucks because a first impression is what matters for returning players, for new players that are coming in 8.3, and due to the nature of our content that we do on YouTube, we kind of have a little bit more, let's say, access to them because we tend to cater towards beginners and people returning or people that are new to the game in terms of our class guides. So we get a lot of comments for that and comments from people that are coming back. It's like, man, there's so much grinding, man, there's so many bugs, man, I've missed 10 years of WoW for this stuff. So yeah, we kind of have our toes dipped a little bit into that side of the community. With that being said, this has kind of been a recurring theme of BFA. I don't remember Legion having these many issues at the patch launches, but again, this is an MMO, this is a live game, and there are always going to be issues. The difference is that most of these issues couldn't have been properly tested or fixed because of, you know, the reduced quality staff team that we all know about. And that kind of, I think I'm actually glad that this happened, because it goes to show Activision that, hey, you cannot just hire hundreds of people in quality control and then not expect shit to hit the fan. So yeah, with that out of the way, my initial impressions are mostly positive actually. There are a couple of negative things that I want to put my finger on. First, the story, the ending cinematic, the end of the campaign is very underwhelming, just like Marcelian said. If you compare it to 8.2 and 8.2.5, where we had those amazing cinematics with Saurfang and Sylvanas right before BlizzCon that gave us all the hype for Shadowlands, that was crazy. It almost felt like that was the story-wise, that should have been the last patch of the expansion, and maybe 8.3 or Ny'alotha be the first thing of Shadowlands. I don't know. That's kind of how it feels. It feels like, yeah, we released Ny'alotha in 8.3 and 8.2, but I mean, he came back, he started attacking the Veil and Uldum. That's all he could do, just a couple of visions. That's nice. I feel like this is the intro of a patch. I feel like he should be able to do more as a freaking all god. But I digress. The ending cinematics, we covered that in our last on cooldown video, so I'm not going to touch too much on that. It is a little bit underwhelming on that side as well. I am a little bit sad that we didn't get any more class updates and class tuning. Sure, a couple of specs that were, you know, suffering quite a bit have been addressed, but not all of them so far. I don't know how we're gonna scale in a month or two in terms of meta, in terms of dungeons and raids and arenas, but right now I don't think I have anything else negative to say about the patch, so let's hit the positives, because there are actually a lot more. The grinding feels a lot better in terms of, you know, the overall effect that it has on my playtime. I absolutely almost don't grind at all. The only thing that I do are emissaries, because I want my neck to be 75 and I don't have time to grind islands, so I just do emissaries every day, and I do the assault almost every day. That's about it. I don't spam world quests, I don't do dailies, and my cloak is as high as it can be. The research archive is upgraded to where we get the extra sanity for killing elite, so that essentially lets us clear the whole thing efficiently. That's always good, so I'm happy about that. I don't feel compelled to grind. That's nice, that's nice. Of course, if I bring an alt into the question, that's another thing, but I feel like this is a little bit too early into the patch to think about alts, right? If you're doing alts right now, sure, okay, it might suck, but again, then you're not playing the game as it was, well, as it was intended to be played, because a raid has been released, a new season for dungeons, a new season for PvP has been released, and if you're playing alts now, if you're adding up on top of alts, then you're not actually playing the season, you're just playing alts, and that's fine. If that's how you want to play, that's fine, but again, I don't know. I don't feel like this is how Blizzard intends the game to be played, which is maybe not a good thing, maybe not a bad thing. It's very subjective to touch on that, but I can honestly only touch on the alts issue with essences and account-wide shit about a month from now. I don't honestly think I can have a proper opinion right now. I am playing a few other characters. Since I don't care about progressing with them at the same level as my main, I don't really feel like I need to grind for that. I know that I'll eventually catch up to my cloak upgrades because of how the upgrades are capped and how many coalescing visions you can get, and if I really want to catch up, I could just do dailies, and now the dailies matter, and it feels like they matter on alts more than they matter on mains. So if I want, let's say if I want to play my warrior or my paladin next, then I will catch up to my DK fairly quickly. Maybe in about 2-3 maximum resets, I'll have my clock at the same level as my DK, maybe even sooner than that. So that's good. So in terms of grinding, I am personally satisfied. In terms of the raid, I love the raid. It's an amazing feeling. It's a big ass raid. The fights themselves are amazing. There are a couple of things that I'm a little bit like the Ny'alotha JPEG picture in the background. Come on guys, like they've animated the tentacles inside the raid in the background, like they move very slowly, seems very creepy and eerie and ominous. They could have done something marginally similar for Ny'alotha as well, like just let him like squirm just a little bit, make him seem more than just a JPEG, right? That's the only negative thing I have to say about the raid. The encounters are extremely fun. We've played about half of the raid on heroic and almost all of it on normal. Like Marcelian said, we didn't actually get to down Ny'alotha yet, but we are almost halfway through it on heroic, so I'm pretty happy. The fights are fun, like I said. The items, oh my god, I was on the fence with corruption. First time I heard about it, I was like, fuck yeah, fuck Titan Forging, get some effects. I actually know the names of the weapons and the items now, and I definitely know the names of the corruption affixes. That's actually pretty cool. When was the last time in BFA that you know, knew the names of things? Maybe trinkets, but that's about it. Trinkets are okay. They're not as OP as Palace, which I think it's a little bit better, because last year it felt like I had to do Eternal Palace and loot that Ash Vein over and over again for that coral. This tier, the trinkets are good, but they don't seem to compel me to just loot that one boss for that one trinket. So far, I guess we'll have to see further down the line.
Yeah, tell them about how many fucking gear drops you get, motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm also for
3 school vas or whatever you got.
For the first time in ever, I actually am getting bis options after bis options.
Yeah, fuck you.
Marcelian is super salty. So I cannot really complain, but I did get to test different corruptions. So I have Echoing Void, I have Infinite Stars, and I have Twisted Appendages, and I have the Skjul Vaz. I looted it twice, once from normal and once from heroic.
You guys hear that? Don't you just love them?
This is as Blood DK because the weapon is not as amazing for DPS, but for Blood DK it's pretty good. Managing the debuffs of the corruption, it's all skill, and I'm actually super happy that we have that in the game, because it doesn't feel like the classes themselves and the encounters themselves have a high skilling cap. It's mostly just remembering and muscle memory. That's most of the skill cap that I feel like it is in WoW at the moment. But corruption, sometimes it's random, sometimes it happens a lot at a time, sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and you have to like dodge all those things and mash this all with the actual raid encounter. And I'm actually super anxious to see how they will play out in arenas and dungeons. But yeah, overall for the corruption, so far I love it. I don't know how I would feel about it if I was on the bad end of the RNG system, so probably pretty shitty, but RNG is always going to be a part of the game, and I was on that side of the RNG for the last 2 patches, so it was kind of but at the very least, corruption is more interesting than Titan Forging. Effects are more interesting than extra eye levels and just bigger numbers. That's my opinion. So props to corruption. Hope they do something similar in Shadowlands in terms of, you know, item boosts, not Kiss Curse mechanics. I don't know if Kiss Curse mechanics can work. Maybe they can, but I'm happy that they can give us options to choose. I have 2 sets of gear on my tank, which I haven't had this entire expansion so far on almost any character. So that's pretty fun, and this is just like 2 weeks into the game. I'm really anxious to see how this will pay off in a couple of months. Overall, I think the patch is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's the raid is awesome. It's not the best yet. I still feel like Battle for the Zara lore was probably better in my opinion, but the raid is still really good. The design team for the encounters hasn't failed us yet. The dungeons, the affix, I've played with it a little bit and it's actually really fun. I still want to play on higher and higher keys because that's when you can actually see the potential of a dungeon, of an affix, especially for the gear. That's where you can see the potential of it, and I'm hoping to see that very soon. What do you guys think? You should let us know down in the comment section below, and yeah, I would recommend go play the game. Sub, I won't say sub until Shadowlands, but sub to just test out the new things, new mechanics, new essences, because they're gonna go away in Shadowlands. So, I don't know. That's my opinion. Man, I gotta say, after all those initial fuck-ups that they had, I'm actually happy with the patch right now, and it's looking fun. We had a couple of very busy weeks in the last, well, the beginning of the patch, so we didn't actually get to sink our teeth into everything that it has, but so far we're pretty pleased with what we have.
Yeah, we can say right now that patch 8.3 is complete, and I do have something to say regarding this. Now, I will say this again, they have completely missed the mark on how to make it more accessible, especially for new players and returning players. We talked about this a lot, and I don't like it a bit. They should have made essences obtainable more easier. If either it's account wide or just have them stupid silly to get them, it's fine. Okay, we touched upon this. They suck because they didn't do that. But imagine this. Imagine if BFA launched without the Azerite system, okay, without the fucking Essences system, or just merge the Azerite system and Essence system into a new talent tree, right? And have from the get-go the corruption thing without no title forging. That would have been a great expansion from the launch. And the only thing you had to worry about is introducing new corruption affixes and ways to cleanse them and make them more powerful or more weaker and having effect you in different ways.
Man.
That would have been...
sounds pretty good, man. Like a more consistency in terms of the system, not just every patch, a new system, a new system.
Exactly.
You have to catch up on the previous system to play the new system.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, if BFA would have removed the Excel talent sheet thingy and go back to something.
The skill trees?
Yeah,
skill trees?
Yeah, go back to something that...
skill trees.
But imagine all the fucking good Azerite pieces within a tree of talents, right? A lot of passives anyways, right? Yeah. Also the essences, right? You can have that unlocked, like you can make it a separate part, progression, it's fine, but still retain within the talent tree. It'll be a big ass thing to progress through. That's one thing. And the only main sauce, the only main carrot on the stick for the whole expansion should have been the items that get corrupted.
Oh my god, the items are so interesting now, guys.
Yeah.
Even if you get like a shittier one, it's still fun to play. You actually know the freaking names. What's the name of your weapon, man?
Ungewan Caress.
See, he knows nothing about items in the game, and he knows the name of the weapon, man.
Yeah, you cannot not remember.
I can spell it perfectly, man.
I know, because you have it 3 times. That's why.
2 times,
motherfucker.
Just 2 times.
All right. Well, that was like the whole point of the video, because there were a couple of newsworthy things during the last week, but mostly hotfixes and stuff.
It's a lot of hotfixes, a lot of world first mythic bosses being fixed.
Going on.
Yeah, the main caveat about this, especially since I didn't actually touch upon it on corruption. Player skill level can get you to where a lot of corruption and end up doing a lot more damage than Blizzard expected. So they're buffing bosses with like 50 million extra HP,
which is interesting because usually they nerf bosses.
Yeah,
so
they nerf. Player power is going to be whack in a few months, man. We're gonna farm the mythic.
We are. I mean, Flame, you know you are the champion.
Oh, I'm the champion of Azeroth.
Yeah, we are the heroes, the champions, the series.
That is my Magni impression.
Yes,
it's 100% on spot.
All right, so just to kick it off like this, big salute to all of our Patreon. Thank you so much, guys, for helping us with our monthly content guides. On cooldown videos like this. It's a blessing to have you guys within the Marcelian&Online team. Thank you so much. And hey, if you ever wanted to become a Patreon, you can always check the description.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Don't forget to check our streams and our guides, because we're back with the guides, man.
Back with the guides. Blood Decay is out. The next one's gonna be Havoc Demon Hunter, then Unholy Decay, and then a lot more. So stick around.
See ya, guys.
Have a great weekend.